This video has been sponsored by Toybox Audio, who is also the maker of Thump One. So what is Thump One? Well, it is a gritty monophonic wavetable synthesizer that is highly focused on making kick-like sounds. Now it's able to produce these sounds thanks to the two different types of engines in here coexisting in beautiful harmony. Over here we have the kick engine, and over here we have the layer engine. Now the layer engine has different algorithms that you can choose from, but mainly it has been designed to sound like a supersaw oscillator, and it's actually been modeled after the supersaw oscillator inside the JP8000. Now, as you can see, Thump One has been sparsely populated with controlling elements. But don't get fooled by its minimalist UI, because this thing is highly tweakable. You see, there are 8 multi-segment envelopes in here. There's 5 for the kick engine and 3 for the layer engine. And the way that you select a section is by just tapping one of the arrows above the knobs. As you can see, Thump One is a highly focused synth for making specific types of sounds. And not only that, the UI has been optimized for very quick tweaking. The learning curve, even though it's multi-segmented, yes, that's a pun and it doesn't really work at all, I don't know why I said that, is very gentle. And I'd recommend this to anyone who wants something new in their toolbox. Starting up here, we have some global controls, and these two, attaQ and decay, are pretty important because they're controlling the playback speed of the envelope. So the attaQ is controlling the first 20% of the envelope, and the decay controls the speed for the remaining 80% of the envelope's playback position. Now the next control is the master pitch, and will control the pitch for the entire synth. The control after that controls the glide time between notes. Now the last control here is an effect knob. It will control the stereo width of the sound. Now, if we stick in the global section and we enter the cogwheel menu, here we have some more items, like a legato on-off mode, And if we for some reason wanted Thump One to sound really mono, we could turn off the stereo right here. And when you do that, the chorus knob stops working and you'll have a true mono sound. Now, Thump One was also designed to be played expressively with keyboards, and here you can find settings for that, like being able to add velocity control to volume. You simply just pull it up to the amount you want. But it's not the only thing you can do, because if you look up here, we can add velocity to punch or to any of the other things inside the synth. Yeah, it's really neat. Now, since Thump One is a circuit model mono synth with only one voice, the envelopes can click quite a bit, and if it gets too much, you can add some smoothing with this knob here. Now, this is one of those things that David added because I was complaining a lot. Right, so we can exit this page by tapping or clicking the X in the upper left corner here. And there is one more control over here on the right, and that is the keyboard button. And this is available both in the standalone version of Thump One and in the AUV3 version, which we're using right now. Now, Thump One comes packed with a lot of presets, very good sounding presets, and they're kind of stuff I would have made myself, so I really didn't need to make my own, but I still did. So the sounds you're gonna hear in this video, they're made by me. But I do want to highlight the old school MS-DOS preset saving you do when you want to save your own. If you want to save a preset in a folder, then you basically do it like this: Jakob haQ / preset name. And there we go. Now we have a folder called Jakob haQ, and there we have our preset. Now, what's sweet is that you also have options for randomizing and mutating presets. And here's a little pro tip for you. You see the Thump One logo? It will actually allow you to randomize or mutate presets. And which one of them it does depends on which one you pressed on last. So if I press mutate last, to the right of the preset browser, there is the main volume control, and next to that we have another menu with some really good quality of life options in here, like an undo and redo. And this was not here in the initial launch version. It's here now because I was complaining like a baby to David. Another thing that was changed was how you can copy and paste envelopes. It used to be inside a menu option called envelope, but David has since launch removed the actual envelope folder and just put the copy, paste, and clear envelope right here in the list. Now, David told me he's constantly working on the formula of Thump One, and so I asked him if he could say anything more specific, and this is what he said, which is not true at all. This is a complete fabrication. He didn't say any of these words. Actually, I should do this and this because I said that. But what he actually said was, we're working on it. I want to begin by explaining how the envelopes work, because they're the ones that you're going to be working with the most when making presets and sounds in this thing. Now, these are multi-segment envelopes, meaning you can have as many segments in there as you choose. So, to add a node for a segment, you just double tap in an empty space. And to remove a node, you double tap on a node. Now, the curvature shapes around and between the nodes will depend on the nodes' distances and amplitudes in relation to one another. So if I put one over here and pull it up, you can see that it's got a wide parabolic shape, which becomes narrower and narrower as I move a node closer to it until it becomes a vertical line. This way, it's possible to make stuff that look like square waveforms in here and have kind of squarish movements of the modulation. The envelopes are very easy to work with because you have a lot of space to move around in thanks to the big window view. I really like that. Now, I do want to point out though that the envelope view is kind of split in two. You got the attack domain and the decay domain, and the speed and playback of these two domains are set with the attack and decay knobs. If you've got a good eye, you might notice that the playback speed is actually faster towards the beginning of the envelope and that it actually slows down towards the end of the envelope. This is intentional design by the developer because it allows the user to focus on the transient bits of the attack portion of a sound. Now, it might already be obvious, but if it's not, I want to point out that the speed of all 8 envelopes in this thing is being controlled with the attack and decay knob, so it's not on an individual basis. And of course, all envelopes get triggered at the same time when you are playing notes. The first section here in the kick engine deals with pitch, and so the knob down here with the note icon allows the user to set the overall pitch of the kick engine, while the knob up top, which is called the punch control, controls the amount of pitch modulation you're getting from the envelope. Now the next section here deals with the wavetable. So the knob down here with the waveform icon actually allows you to select a waveform from the table. And then with the knob on top, which is the wavetable position knob, it basically sets the playback position of the wavetable. So the envelope here is basically modulating the movement of the wavetable playback position. The next section is the drive engine, and it's special because it doesn't just affect the kick engine, it will also affect the layer engine. Now, the first knob up here is the actual drive control. It controls the amount of analog saturation you're getting in your patch, and this can of course be modulated with the envelope. Now, the knob underneath here with the filter icon, it adjusts the amount of filtering you're getting in the drive section. The next section here is kind of cute. I like it because it's called buzz and it was designed to simulate the sound of a torn speaker cone. This knob here called buzz is the main knob and it controls the amount of buzz you're getting in your patch, which can then of course be modulated with the envelope. And the knob underneath called buzz tone with the dots icon, it will adjust the tone of the buzz sound. The next and last section in the kick engine is a bit special. Well, the first knob here called level is not that special. It controls the level or volume output of the kick engine, and this can of course be modulated with the envelope. But then we have a knob down here with an exclamation mark. And let me tell you, it doesn't at all signal to the user what it is or what it does. But I can tell you that it is actually an FM amount knob. You see, there is an extra hidden oscillator in here that can be used to frequency modulate the oscillator inside the kick engine. And so you basically set the amount with this knob. It's a nice feature to have because it allows the user to create rich, unique timbres with just a tweak of a knob. Right, so the supersaw oscillator inside the layer engine has 7 individual voices, which you can detune with the detuning knob here. And the detuning can of course be modulated with the envelope. Now, one thing to point out though is that the detuning knob does more than just detuning, and it all depends on the algorithm loaded, but we'll get into that later on. Just stick with me. You see, there are 2 more controls. This one is the filter control. It's basically subtractive synthesis with a low-pass filter, so it adjusts the filter amount for the layer engine. And this can of course be modulated with the envelope. And the last control here is the level control, which controls the volume of the layer engine, and it can also be controlled with its own envelope. Now, lastly, we have the algorithm selection. Now, there are 12 different modes that can be selected for this engine. You see, the first 10 modes basically gives you different intervals between the 2 supersaw notes in here. But the tuning is not all that these algorithms do, because some of them also create some specific cross-modulations between the kick engine and the layer engine to produce gritty, distorted, nasty, crunchy sounds. Now, there are 2 other modes in here, one called noise, which is basically just that, a noise oscillator or generator, whatever you want to call it. And when you've got this one selected, the detuning knob actually works as a static control. Now, the second special algorithm in here is the FM1, which is a frequency modulation algorithm. And when you've got this selected, the detuning knob actually works as a feedback control. And what you're using for the actual frequency modulation of the layer engine is the kick engine itself. And I love this stuff. One thing I do want to highlight about Thump One is the amount of West Coast synth think that actually went into this, because the amount of timbres you can make, the amount of different sounds, the harshness you can get out of it, the rawness you can get out of the sounds are just amazing. This thing sounds incredibly good. What makes Thump One so special is that it actually is a mix between something like this and something like this. Because just like a drum synthesizer, you have been given tools to actually zoom in on specific portions of the sounds that are important to transient focused sounds like kick drums and other types of drum sounds. However, there are other parts added to this thing that works more like it does in regular synthesizers. Then again, you're not working with a regular synthesizer because you have no continuously looping elements like LFOs or sequencers. No, you are working with a one-shot, multi-segmented envelope. So my first pro tip is painfully obvious. Focus a lot on the envelope, the attack and decay knob, because there's been so many times I sat down, I did these intricate tweaks only to end up with a sound where I couldn't really hear what was going on because it sounded like nothing was happening until I noticed that I had the attack pulled down too far. So yeah, do not forget these two knobs. They are super important to the function of the synth. My next pro tip has to do with the wavetable. You see, in this table, there are some waveforms that do more than the other ones. And what do I mean by that? Well, they can be modulated, and you can see the shapes that the waveform take when it goes through a table when you're tweaking this knob here. And some of these waveforms do crazy things. The last one in particular is one that I really enjoy because when you modulate it, you end up with something that sounds like a filtered rubber duck type sound. So when you're going through the waveforms, move this knob so you can really see what's going on in this little shape. The last focus pro tip has to do with the relation between the kick engine and the layer engine. You see, if you really want to sculpt the sounds coming out of the layer engine, you want to work a lot on the level section inside the kick engine. You see, some of the algorithms used in the layer engine are really sensitive to high amplitudes. And so if you're tweaking envelopes with a high amplitude inside the layer section here in the kick engine, well, what happens is you end up with distorted, noisy, and crunchy, less musical sounds coming out of the layer engine. If you want more musical sounds, you want to work with smaller amplitudes. It's not that strange that I fell in love with Thump One instantly, because Toybox basically took two of my most favorite things and put them in one app. You see, first of all, I'm a bass head, and when it comes to the supersaw sound, it's the same thing. I'm super in love with it. I even made a masterclass on the supersaw sound, so it would be hard for me not to like this thing. But then again, all of this could have been implemented badly, and that's not at all the case here. Thanks to the West Coast synthesis approach, you can easily create interesting timbres with just a few knob tweaks. I really enjoy that. One thing to bring up is the monophonic nature of Thump One, and for me, well, I never felt the need for playing multiple notes at the same time because of how it is designed for making certain types of sounds, even though you can, of course, make other types of sounds. And I know that that would be a deal breaker for some people, but it definitely is not for me. If it's not abundantly clear by now, there's a highly focused concept behind Thump One, and what's in there right now is making that concept work really well. I think that in a world where we have absolutely everything we could ever ask for when it comes to effects, synthesizers, drum machines, sequencers, DAWs, yeah, I mean, everything exists, and in all kinds of variations with all kinds of UIs and color schemes. So whenever a developer goes out of their way to do something more specific, I think it should be rewarded and encouraged. I get why some developers choose not to go that route and try to make stuff that would appeal to more people, something that can do everything, right? I mean, it's a business. You need to make money, you need to make a living as a programmer. But whenever you're doing that, you're also missing out on a chance of really just digging into specific things and seeing how far you can take those things. I think that's something we need too. There's always going to be a niche audience out there that wants something new, something specific, and I think that Thump One is definitely in that space. But I also, at the same time, want to recommend this to anyone. And since the price is so low, I mean, there's not that much to argue about, really. I'm gonna round this up by saying big, massive shout out to Toybox Audio, who sponsored this video. Now, to everyone else watching this video, to all of my patrons, I know it is very much thanks to all of you, my audience, that I'm able to do what I do today. So, massive thanks for that. If you watch this far, then you are very much loved by me, of course, and Moo here. Moo loves you too. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can find a link to Thump One both for desktop and laptop systems and also iOS in the pinned comment down below. And if you want to support me in any other ways, you have these links over here. Now, as usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.
I want a cake for my birthday, Moo. I want you to eat cake too. Will you give me a present, Moo? Maybe you want one too? Sing with me, Moo. Sing with me, Moo.